guess I was right. He was going to come by and shake everybody's hand. Sorry, you're not going to see that movie.
All these film festivals, but I feel like this is, it means more being here. So thank you guys. Yeah, and actually, the other really nice thing with showing this in the valley is a nice way to say thank you to the Park Service, because obviously this film wouldn't have been possible without them actually allowing us to do this. And so I think it's really great to see the climbing community working together with the Park Service, and especially with an event like the Facelift. So thank you guys for participating with the Facelift, and thank the Park Service for friggin' letting us film for a couple years. So,
what can we do with your foundation if we can't give money?
Well, yeah, what can you do with the foundation if you can't give money? That's a fair question, because I feel like most of the people, that's why you're all at free screening. So, if you go to the foundation website, which is honnoldfoundation.org, you can see the partners that we've been supporting, and one of them in particular, Grid Alternatives, does a lot of work in the US domestically, and that's basically volunteer-based, so you can just show up at one of their installations and basically help. The Honnold Foundation, for the most part, has just been donating money to support other partners, like to donate money to support other people's work. So for the most part, we ourselves don't really have, need volunteers to do projects. But you can definitely see the partners that we're working with and work directly with them. Grid Alternatives is by far my favorite. I've been supporting them since the beginning, like 5 or 6 years ago. And if I could, I would just run their organization, because I think it's like the perfect way to help the world. But cool. Yeah.
Would it be appropriate to suggest for the next Yosemite Valley bouldering book that we call Freerider the next V7 eyeball? Or
I think we should. I think we should for sure. I think it should be the only 5-star V7 bowling route in the valley. I think that you got to set a certain high standard, Yeah. Any other questions or anything? Or, comments? Yeah.
How much money do you have?
You ask. I have $4 right now. No, I have 3 because I spent one at the bake sale thing.
Always giving.
Yeah, exactly. Always trying to support the kids. Yeah.
I'm just curious. Obviously, we've been watching you climb and evolve for the last little bit, and curious for the evolution of free soloing. Do you feel responsibility in this kind of expansion of the sport for younger generations, because it's a pretty intense thing?
Yeah, I hope you guys all heard the question, so I'm not going to repeat it. But I don't think, I don't really feel any particular responsibility to the sport or to whatever. I've always sort of taken my own path and kind of done my own thing, and, the risk of sounding cliche, followed my heart or whatever, done the things that I'm inspired by.
Obviously it's for you.
Yeah, yeah, no, that is for me. No, but I don't know. I don't like to think of it in the context of, because honestly, the history of climbing, the future of climbing, those are such big, broad things that you can kind of only see in retrospect. When Peter Croft soloed Astroman, somebody like John Backer could have done it 2 years later, but in fact, it didn't get repeated for 20 years, and so it became one of the big iconic solos of the '80s, and you're just in the '90s, I suppose. You're like, oh, that's crazy. Peter did something that wasn't repeated for a whole generation. But who would have known when he did it? It's just, I don't know. And so that's kind of the thing with El Cap or many of the other things that I've soloed. Some overmotivated kid could go and repeat them all next year, and you'd be like, oh, maybe they aren't that hard. Maybe that's just this is the future, and people will just do this all the time. Or maybe they won't be repeated for 20 years, and it'll be, it's you just never really know until it all happens.
Yeah.
We'll just see. But.
Were you on autopilot on the top of the boulder problem when you did that karate kick, or did you be okay, this is it?
That's my favorite question. From a whole month of screening the film in different places, I'm like, you got it. I was so stoked. Totally autopilot, did not think about it at all, executed it perfectly, just did the thing.
Yeah.
The entire boulder problem, even sitting below the boulder problem, there wasn't oh no, this is it. I basically I popped my shoes off, I chilled for half a second, popped them back on, tightened everything up, chalked up, and did it. And there was no oh no, this is the crux. It was just I'm here, and yeah, it was all very smooth. It was very satisfying when I actually did it. But, yeah, in the back.
Do you ever want to be happy and cozy?
I don't know. I mean, yeah, the happy and cozy. That's funny. I mean, a lot of the lines in the film I hear, and I'm like, oh man, I said that. That's pretty good. Yeah, it's funny. Like my home in Vegas now is actually quite cozy. Like Sonny's done an amazing job of like painting some walls and putting up pictures, and it's all really beautiful. And every time I go home in between things, I'm like, oh, it's so nice here. And in fact, I'm actually in Yosemite a day later than I was going to be because basically I went home and I was like, I just kind of want to stay at home and climb in the gym for a day. It's like I need to relax in between all the travel I've been doing. And so I don't know, all that to say that maybe I'm getting soft, you know? Yeah.
What do you think contributed to your unique approach to fear?
What do I think? Well, I don't know if I have a unique approach to fear. I mean, I think that I've sort of dealt with fear in the same way that everybody else does, which is to practice and expose yourself to things and, you know, grow over time. I think that I've maybe just done more of it than a lot of people, particularly with regards to free soloing, because I've always kind of loved soloing, so I've like tried to get better at it and tried harder things. And I don't know, but I mean, I think it's kind of the same approach that everybody uses, but just applied to something different. I don't know. Yeah, in the backpack.
What's your favorite solo in the valley?
My favorite solo in the valley, that's a good question. Maybe Serenity Suns. That's like, yeah. That's it's a favorite. Yeah, I mean, back in the day when I first soloed that, I forget, I think I took a rope up and like rappelled back down. It's all sort of, now I just up and down climb and it's all sort of awesome and it's like more fun. But I've probably done that route there may be 4 times that I thought I was going to go solo at the Steck Salate, just like for history's sake. It's like, oh, I feel like it's something I should do, and all my friends do it, and I should do it. And I'd park at the 4 Mile Trail and be like, look up, and like, that is way too much work for like a route that's not fun. And then I would drive over to Kewanee and do Serenity Suns instead. And be like, this is or like actually once I went to rope solo Lurking Fear, and I did the first 4 or 5 pitches, and it was like, this sucks, and rappelled down, and then went and solo Serenity Suns. This is great. Anyway, yeah.
What are you doing tomorrow?
Tomorrow I'm driving to LA so that we, basically, I mean the movie opens, or premieres in LA on Thursday and then nationally Friday, so it's like, it's all a crazy thing. But yeah, so you know, the whirlwind continues. Yeah, actually.
Are you friends with Jared Leto?
Yeah, I am friends with Jared Leto.
I was at a concert in Nashville last year, and he FaceTimed you.
Oh yeah, did he?
Do you remember that?
Well, I feel like I should. Was that the one where? Is that the one where he got the crowd to like?
Yeah.
Was that after I'd done the solo of the route? Yeah. So he actually texted me this video of the whole audience being like, "Yeah," and I was like, it actually was quite moving. It was like after I soloed Cap, like obviously a lot of my friends texted me being like, "Oh, nice work," but not many sent like an auditorium of 100 people cheering for me. I was like, it was pretty mega. So you were in that audience?
I was.
Oh, I appreciate it. Thank you. It was pretty cool. And I don't know if you noticed, but Jared makes a cameo in the film. It's just not like when I'm standing at the base of Middle Cathedral talking about soloing El Cap, I was actually chatting with Jared, and then we found the East Bottom Middle. But the filmmakers felt like it was distracting to be like, and then there's a random Jared Leto over there. So they didn't like make him a character. But yeah, I mean the whole dialogue where I'm like, oh well, freaking look at it, look how big it is. That's all Jared.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, actually, it was an interesting conversation with the whole hike up to the base. We were talking about, because he has an interesting perspective on what it means to like perform, to just step in front of 100,000 people and be like, no, I'm gonna own it, and just like have that moment. And there aren't that many people that you can talk to about that sort of moment of like, now I'm just gonna like do this thing that's like pretty mega. And so yeah, it was interesting to talk to him about it. Yeah. Okay.
You talk about a suit of armor during your film. What's the hardest part for you to keep that piece of armor intact?
So yeah, the whole mental armor thing, I mean, that's actually kind of a complicated question because like Tommy talks about that a bunch, and he's kind of quoting me from the film Alone on the Wall, I think, like many years ago. I talked about that a bunch with my experience on Half Dome and whatever. And the things I don't personally think of it that way that much anymore. And like I actually kind of think that it's better not to do the suit of armor, to be more just, you know, sort of broaden your comfort zone until whatever you're trying to do feels natural and normal and comfortable. Because I feel like the whole suit of armor thing, you know, like getting really psyched up and trying to do something scary, only works to a certain extent. You know, whereas if you're just comfortable doing it, you don't have to get psyched up or anything. You don't need the armor. You're just like, oh, no, like this is great, I can do that, it's no problem. So in some ways, Tommy's talking about that, and like, I mean, you know, it's an interesting idea. I don't know if it's necessarily the best. I don't know. It's complicated, I guess. But yeah, but my view of that kind of stuff has changed over time for sure. But okay, I think okay, last one, and then we gotta go to bed.
Okay.
Yeah.
I just was reading through the American Alpine Journalist this year, and I saw that you,
cool.
at the end of your little piece on it, you said you're like a aspiring sport climber.
Mm-hmm.
So I was like wondering, if there was a sport climb that you would want to do in the world, what line would be really rad for you to do?
Oh, I mean, I think, there are a lot of inspiring sports in the world. I think if I ever did Realization, her biography, like the first 515 in the world, or sort of supposedly, depending on how you count your history. But I mean, that is an iconic, striking, beautiful line, and it represented the cutting edge of difficulty when I was a kid. So it sort of represents this like outrageous, and it's a style of climbing that I'm particularly bad at. So if I was ever able to do something like that, I'd be like, oh my God, I'm so good. So yeah, maybe biography. I find Seiyuu is the area where it is extremely hard, so I'm sort of like, you know, I kind of doubt I'll ever do it. But you know, it's a good dream. Cool. Well, thank you guys for coming. Really appreciate it.